This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Okay, everybody, it's October. It is my absolute favorite time of year. But it's also the time of year when the days get shorter and the nights get longer. The darkness is here to stay for a little while. I was just talking to my therapist last week about setting up good habits before daylight savings hits in November. Because if I get the good habits set up now, by the time the winter is in full effect, I can try to combat the winter blues with my routines. That's what my therapist is good for. You know, she's always helping me figure out the tools I need to get through the tough times. So if you're interested in starting therapy, definitely give BetterHelp a try. It is all online. It's super convenient. They match you with a therapist. You can change therapists at any time. Head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, I've always been fascinated by witch hunts and witch trials. And when I researched the Salem Witch Trials, I wanted to know, where did this all start? Where did these ideas come from? So in part one, we're going way back to medieval Europe, where this all began, where people believed the devil's soldiers lived among them. These are the cases of the European witch hunts. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. I got my cerveza, a.k.a. El Profilor.
Sorry, you're Spanish this week?
I don't know why I did that.
Oh, okay.
I've been on Duolingo, but I've been playing chess.
Yeah, you were going really hard with the learning Spanish for a while, actually.
Yeah, it got too hard, and I'm not in the Bronx, so no one, in the Bronx, half the people speak Spanish.
Yeah, you would have more practice.
Yeah.
You could go to Brisas in Castle Hill and talk to all the ladies. They love you with your blue eyes there.
See, what I learned mostly kind of is same old stuff I knew from the Bronx, and it's really just like Mommy Ben Aki. That's really it.
That's how you spit game?
Yeah. Then, for some reason, all the Spanish girls always liked my blue eyes.
They did, yeah. They love those blue eyes. It's true.
So, I saw a crazy article that I wanted to show you about. Show me about? Yeah.
What was it?
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, there was a 22-year-old man, Alberto Joshua Hernandez, who allegedly forced the driver to dig a grave for his dog after the driver accidentally hit and killed his dog.
Wow.
So, yeah, Hernandez reportedly held the driver at gunpoint, made him retrieve the dog's body from a ditch, and carry it to Hernandez's yard to dig the grave. Hernandez allegedly took the driver's keys and phone and forced him to withdraw $200 from an ATM as compensation for the dog. Now, that's a little weird for me, the $200. My dog died. I don't really give a shit about money.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
There was surveillance footage confirming that about the ATM withdrawal. So he was identified in a police lineup.
Wow.
So he was arrested and charged with aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping, and drug-related offenses, and his bond was set to $660,000.
Wait, I have a question. So why drug-related offenses?
I didn't look into that because I only care about the dog.
Oh, okay.
So
maybe he had drugs on him. Like maybe he had weed on him or something.
Well, sure, he could have been smoking crack while he's dig that hole, bitch.
Yeah, true.
He could have been,
That's crazy.
So I can't condone the behavior because somehow I'm in the public, but I do understand it.
Yeah.
You hit my dog?
Yeah.
And if you're not the most remorseful and crying, you're probably both going in the ditch.
Yeah.
You're going to be with my dog forever. You're going to heaven with my dog. I'm sending you to the gulag.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, if I ever hit any animal, even if it was a squirrel.
How about a rat?
That's tough.
How about
I have a history of we all know, we've talked about on the podcast my situation with the rat. I have a history. I don't know how I don't know how I feel about it, but I still would probably feel guilty, like killing an animal.
Killing anything.
Car.
I mean, the other day there was a fly trapped a fly in between the window and the screen, and it was just going to stay there forever and die. So I was like, let me open the screen. There's no need for homie to die, even though he's a pain in the ass and eats shit.
I know. The other day I was in the shower and a bug was in there and it got caught in the water and died. And I felt really guilty about it.
Oh, I had one of them bugs. What's the ones from China that you're supposed to kill?
With the polka dots or whatever?
Yeah, it was in the shower, and I put the water on it and let it go down the drain.
Oh, you did? That's a little more...
I sent them to China. Because China's underneath us, right? So I sent him to China. He went down.
Underneath us?
Yeah, like on the other side of the earth.
Oh, like I guess if you dug a hole...
You were trying to make me sound dumb, and you didn't know how a globe worked. You should have saw her face, folks. Underneath us? Like, it was such an attitude.
But it is a weird way to say it.
You ever see, like, Bugs Bunny dig a hole to China from America? That's where I learned my geography.
That's where you learned it. Okay. All right. That's funny. Well, I wanted to remind everybody that you need to get your ghost stories in. This is our last call for ghost stories or paranormal stories because we will be recording our ghost listener story next week, which is the week of Halloween. So you need to get them in. We've already gotten a bunch of emails.
Get all your fake stories in now.
Be ready to be roasted. Only send them if you want to not be believed by Russ. Send in your emails of your stories because we'll be recording next week. Okay, I already got a bunch, but I'm excited. We can even do a 2-parter if we get a lot.
Possibly.
Now, I will say, I might not read every single story that comes in. They are going to be vetted.
Because some of them might suck.
Listen, they got to be vetted, okay? I mean, we have a ton, so I have to just choose. Like, if we're doing 2 parts, I got to choose like 5 and 5. Like we can't go on forever and ever. So some will be vetted, but this is your last call.
No, but it's true that like some good ones might not make it. Like when I do review of the week, sometimes there are multiple funny ones that I want to read, but like I can only do one.
Yeah, true.
So speaking of review of the week, I guess that gives me a little bit of time to shine.
Ah.
So this week's review of the week is from Justice Renee. Y'all aight. 5 stars. I bought an iPhone, so I'm leaving another review. Also, I wanted to let Russ know that I'm actively refusing to wear my prescription sneakers because the only options are Skechers and New Balance. I told my podiatrist he can talk to Russ if he has a problem with it. Hashtag, I'd rather cut my feet off. Shout out to you, Renee Justice. Sometimes it's better to look good than be healthy.
You're an idiot. Well, some New Balance are good, though.
Yeah, but you don't want the white boomer ones that they all wear to mow the lawn.
Yeah, like the dad ones.
You get like a pair of 990s. Those are dope.
Yeah,
all the made in America or made in the UK ones are all better quality and handmade.
Well, I think there's a big misconception in our fan base because people assume that you say New Balance, that you have New Balance, and you've made fun of New Balance in the past, but they don't understand that there's a difference in New Balance.
See, there's levels to this shit, folks.
There is.
You're still on level 1.
You got to get educated in the sneaker game.
Yeah, you get 990s, 992s. Like,
Yes.
You know, there's certain ones you could get. The white ones that are hard as a rock, and it's not even leather. That shit is hard plastic.
And they tie them way too tight, and they get green from mowing the lawn. Those are the ones that are not good New Balance to wear. But there are other New Balance that are really nice. And we had someone comment on Patreon and said, "Oh, I guess Russ doesn't like Crocs either." Absolutely not.
Who the fuck would wear a Croc? What are you, a chef?
Russ is from New York. I don't think a single New Yorker besides his sister Carrie has a pair of Crocs, and she will only wear them around her house. She won't wear them outside.
Because you got to look good. You're seeing so many people. I guess when people live in other areas, only person's going to see you, you know, you're going to jump in Walmart real quick and go back home.
Well, Crocs became very popular, especially with the little, little beads and like the things you put on them. I forgot what they're called.
Well, they marketed them ugly shits real good. And it's funny. There was a movie. I forgot what movie it was, but it was futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, they wanted everyone to be dumb.
Okay.
Like in the future, everyone's really dumb. And there was this small shoe startup company that no one was buying. And they were like, these are the ugliest shoes we ever seen. And no one's ever going to wear these. Well, put these for the future dumb people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were Crocs.
Really?
And it was before they were popular. And they put them in there. And now people are wearing them.
That is funny. Yeah. So anyone who was born and raised in New York does not and will not ever wear Crocs.
Nah, there's clowns everywhere.
But
There's corns.
But listen, it just is what it is.
Just look good, folks.
If you're going to listen to our podcast, you have to understand that Russ is from the Bronx and he's very judgmental about footwear. And it is what it is.
Not just footwear.
Not just footwear, but he's Russ the judgerer. But footwear is a very big deal to him. All right, so this month on the Patreon, we are going to watch... Which one are we watching? The Perfect Neighbor or BTK? Which one?
We're probably going to watch The Perfect Neighbor, but there's a chance we do BTK.
We're undecided.
Because we did an episode on BTK.
We did. We did an episode a long time ago on BTK, and right now there's a new BTK documentary. And it is October, so should we do The Perfect Neighbor or BTK?
See, the thing about Jess is once she tells you guys what documentary we're going to do, I'll see like a new one that's number one on Netflix. She'll be like, no, I already told them. But I'll be like, but this one is number one in the country and everyone's watching it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter.
I'm a woman of my word. When I say I'm going to do something, I commit.
You say a lot.
So we're undecided between the two, but we're going to pick one within the next couple days, and we're going to have that out as well. We got a lot going on this month.
Unless I see a better documentary, and that'll make Jess's head spin.
It will. So Russ has the patron shout-outs.
So this week's Patreons are Christopher. Someone put K808080. That's weird. What are you, an alien? Matt. If you are, hit me up. I need new legs. We got Matt, Candace, Sneaky Skittle, Alex, MET, Cray, Queen A, Rhonda, Stephanie, and Jordan. So shout out to you guys. I got a beer, but it's open already.
Let's cheers our beers.
Cheers.
Yay.
I'm assuming that's Michael Jordan, by the way.
Oh, maybe.
The last one. That's dope that Michael Jordan and Jordan dial Patreon.
Okay. I have been waiting to do this one for years. But I knew if I'm going to do it, I'm not just going to cover the Salem Witch Trials. It's been done in true crime so many times. I wanted to understand.
Oh, here we go.
Russ will tell you, I always want to understand everything.
She'll be like, I don't understand. I'm like, that's okay. Just don't understand.
When I was a kid, I was the why kid. You can ask my mom. I wanted to know why. But why? But why? I was one of those kids.
She's still like that.
I am the grown-up why kid.
Send help.
I wanted to find out where this all started. Who birthed these ideas? That's why this episode is such a heavy hitter. And I'm going to warn you, it is a history-heavy episode. But it's merged with a lot of crime. And I will get to the Salem Witch Trials. But I wanted to explore all of it. I wanted to know how humans got there. From the very beginning of time, humans have been dividing the world into categories. Us and them.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of our oldest instincts. Every civilization has done it, drawn lines around who belongs and who doesn't. In ancient Greece, barbarian meant anyone who didn't speak their language or was part of their culture. In Europe, Jews were blamed for the economic collapse of Germany. In the Americas, genocide was justified by calling the indigenous people savages. We've built whole systems on the idea that someone else has to be the problem. Othering is how humans make sense of fear. When something goes wrong, we point to the outsider, the person who looks different, talks different, or just makes us uncomfortable. And that's really what this story is about. It's not just about witches and the men and women who hunted them. It's about what happens when fear and faith collide, and when a whole society decides the only way to feel safe is to destroy what they don't understand. My fascination with witches started very early. Everyone who knows me knows that when I was a little girl, I was obsessed, and still am obsessed, with the Wizard of Oz. And I was always more intrigued by the Wicked Witch than Glenda the Good. Her green skin, the cackle, the black pointed hat. The Wicked Witch, she actually terrified me, but I was simultaneously fascinated by her. She was powerful, dramatic. And as I got older and then read the book Wicked, when I was a young adult, I realized she was also misunderstood. Because even as a kid, I didn't totally buy the fact that she was evil. She was just different. And I think that was the beginning of it for me, this curiosity about witches. As I got older, I realized the idea of the witch has always been about difference. Every generation has their witches, and every generation has their witch hunters. This story may sound like folklore, but sadly, it's not. What I'm about to tell you is 100% true. This is a story about many murders. Real people died. Real families were torn apart. There were victims, suspects, interrogations, trials, and executions. And they were all surprisingly very well documented. Only difference is, everyone involved thought they were the good guys. That's what makes this one so chilling. They were neighbors, friends, judges, priests, people who thought they were saving the world, one execution at a time. This is the powerful, true story of the witch hunts. Are you ready?
Yes.
You really let me talk through that whole monologue. You didn't interrupt once.
I'm getting good at this. See, I say shut up Russ in my head when I'm listening to the episode, so I just shut it up Russ.
Someone said on our Ed Gein episode, they'd commented on Spotify because we were joking about what you got better at, and someone commented that you got way better at listening.
It's funny, though, that you couldn't think of anything I got better at.
So one of my sources for this episode was a 6-part National Geographic docuseries called Witches, The Truth Behind the Trials. This was fantastically done, and they cover countries that I won't be talking about today because witch trials happened in many countries. So I won't be talking about it today, but if you're interested in more, definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. So there's this idea that if people believe in God, they have to believe in the devil too. And that one belief, that equal and opposite force, is what fueled one of the darkest chapters in European history. Over the course of 2 centuries, 80,000 people, mostly women, were executed for witchcraft.
That's crazy.
They were hanged, beheaded, or burned alive. It didn't start with broomsticks and bubbling cauldrons. It started with fear. Fear that looked a lot like faith. In ancient times, a witch wasn't evil. And I say witch, and I'm going to say it the whole time with air quotes.
There is no such thing as a witch. That's like saying there's trolls under a bridge.
We're talking about these accused people that the religious people of the time considered witches. So I will be saying witch with air quotes this whole entire episode.
Oh, the amount of times when I was young, I heard of things that were witchcraft. Oh my God.
So in ancient times, a witch wasn't evil. It wasn't thought to be a bad thing. She was the village healer, the midwife, the woman who knew which herbs could stop bleeding or bring down a fever. She was respected. And yes, maybe a little intimidating to some, because she had knowledge. And knowledge is power.
And no one likes a woman that knows stuff.
Exactly. This is a patriarchal society. You're trying to be funny, but it's the truth.
Really?
That's the way they thought of it. Women aren't supposed to be smarter than men. This is a deeply patriarchal time.
Oh.
But as Christianity spread across Europe, power shifted. And so did the story of the witch. By the Middle Ages, Europe was in chaos. Like, war was nonstop. The Black Plague wiped out entire towns. People didn't understand disease or weather patterns or famine. They just knew something was killing them. And when humans can't explain tragedy, they find someone to blame.
Yeah. They want to take control of the situation, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it's all about control, for sure. And that's where all this started. Ordinary people, farmers, merchants, mothers, fathers, started looking around for a source of their suffering. When crops failed, when livestock died, when children became sick, whispers started. Someone must have done this to me. Someone must be working with the devil. By the late 1400s, that fear of witches started to merge with something else, fear of heresy. Europe was ruled by the church. So the church was the law, the judge, the executioner. It was all one. There was no separation of church and state. And if you dared to step outside its teachings, even if all you were doing was mixing herbs, you weren't just strange, you were dangerous to them.
They thought you were making a magic potion.
They did.
Well, if it makes you feel better, you idiots.
80% of people accused of witchcraft were women. Healers, widows, the poor, the outspoken women, the loud ones. The perfect scapegoats in a world that was completely falling apart. So there are a few key characters in this story that truly changed the course of history, not for the better. And since I need to know the foundation of where this all stemmed from, I went way back to the beginning of when herbalists and midwives were first put into the same category as the devil. Because prior to this person, herbalists and midwives, people who later were considered witches, were never associated with the devil.
Is a midwife like a housekeeper, like a nanny?
No, a midwife is a woman who births babies, who brings babies into this world.
Oh, she delivers them.
Yes. One of the two men responsible for this is Heinrich Kramer. So he was a Dominican friar, obsessed with the idea that Satan was hiding behind every act of defiance. And he started what can only be described as a one-man crusade against witches. So in the 1400s, Europe, it wasn't Europe yet. It was the Holy Roman Empire, which is not necessarily ran by the Catholic Church, but it was heavily influenced by the Catholic Church. So while the emperor was in charge on paper, the church is what shaped all the moral laws, controlled education, and dictated who was in good standing with God.
It's a lot of power.
It's a lot of power.
Because if you're not in good standing with God, they'll just kill you. So not being in good standing with God was like a death sentence.
And it also could make or break political careers back then. So the church started freaking out because they believed heresy was spreading. In the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church saw itself as the single guardian of spiritual truth. Anyone who questioned the Catholic Church or its authority, whether by interpreting the Bible differently or practicing old pagan or folk rituals, or suggesting that people could reach God without the church, they were automatically labeled a heretic. So the old lady down the block that you'd go to for some herbal tea to help heal a cold or get rid of nightmares or reduce a fever, or used ancient folk magic that was passed down through generations, was now threatening or dangerous because it took the focus off of God, which in turn took the focus off of the church, and the church was incredibly influential in society and in politics. You don't always need to pray away your nightmares. Just drink a lavender tea before bed, right? And the church leaders hated this. So they felt like they needed to reel this all in.
Motherfucker.
Their influence was starting to diminish, and they didn't like it. So in 1484, Pope Innocent VIII issued a decree authorizing the hunting of witches in the name of protecting the church.
But if they're not green and flying on a brooms, you can't even really say who's a witch.
Oh, just wait.
Because nobody had no real magic power, so these people are idiots.
Just wait. You'll see how it all plays out.
If she ain't flying on a broom, she ain't a witch.
Heinrich Kramer was one of the men chosen for this job. And he took himself super serious because he was literally assigned to do this by the Pope. So, like, imagine this dude, the Pope comes to him and is like, you're the guy for the job. You're going to go and find these witches and put them on trial.
He probably was like, this job pay good? He was like, yeah, give you this.
No, he believed it and he was passionate about it, and he took himself way too seriously.
Yeah, we all got that person at work that takes the job too serious.
He's one of them. So in 1485, his first stop was Innsbruck, Austria. And he came in thinking he was all that, expecting them to be obedient and fear him. Instead, he got humiliated.
I love it.
A local woman named Helena Schuberin openly mocked him and pretty much called him a creep. She told people not to listen to him preach. And when he tried to make an example of her, the local bishop took her side and shut the whole thing down.
Was he trying to say she was a witch?
Yes, so he was going to say she's a witch, obviously, because she's going against what the Pope said, you know. But the local bishop took her side, and he was like, no. This lady is an upstanding citizen in our community. You're just rolling on in here.
Yeah.
Like, who are you, pretty much?
They should have just offed him back then. You could kill anyone because there's no real evidence.
Yeah.
Just bury him.
Well, you know, this whole thing became a sham. For a man who believed he'd been handpicked by God to crush evil, this was a huge blow to his ego. The local bishop cared about his people, and this is some random guy coming in. So he called Heinrich a drunk zealot, and he called him a clown. He was like, get out of my town.
Yeah.
He held trials, but they were so absurd that Heinrich Kramer became the laughingstock of Austria.
Oh no, he's about to get some revenge. I could just feel it.
Oh yeah, you know it's coming. Humiliation didn't stop him. Unfortunately, it hardened him and it fueled him. Kramer was obsessed with the idea that women were weak, mind, body, and soul. Therefore, they were more susceptible to the devil's influence. I mean, look at Eve, right? Prime example in his eyes. So after being laughed out of Innsbruck, dismissed by these bishops, and publicly mocked for his obsession with women and demons, he needed to reclaim his reputation.
Who taught him all this? He just made this shit up?
Yeah, in the beginning, he was given authority by the Pope to go and find witches and put them on trial.
This Pope was an idiot.
This was his first stop. And they all were like, you're a fucking joke, bro.
Yeah.
So he did what every power-hungry man with a God complex does when the world stops listening. He wrote a book. And he called it the Malleus Maleficarum, which means the hammer of the witches.
He tried to make himself have a superhero tagline.
And he meant it literally. It was a weapon disguised as theology. It was published in 1487, and this book became the most influential witch hunting manual in history.
Wow.
It claimed to prove the existence of witches, explain how to identify them, and then in horrifying detail, it instructs exactly how to torture and destroy them. From its opening pages, it's clear that Heinrich Kramer wasn't writing from reason, it was from resentment. He was furious at women who ignored him, at clergy who rejected him, and at the church that had humiliated him.
He obviously didn't get no girls. That's what was going on. He was tired of masturbating. He was mad.
Probably.
Or maybe he didn't even masturbate, so he fucking had testosterone dripping out his ears.
Maybe. The lady humiliated him, and then the bishops in that town had her back, which was further humiliation because they were bishops.
I feel like he reminded me of someone that comes to New York and we don't know, and he's like asking questions or saying something stupid, and someone will look around like, yo, whose mans is this?
Yes, it
Like,
was
that's
definitely
what happened
that.
when he went to that town. Like, yo, whose mans is this?
Absolutely.
Get out of here before we jump you, bro.
Exactly. That's what it was like. So he poured every ounce of bitterness into that book, and then he stamped it with the Pope's name right on the cover to prove it was legitimate. The Malleus Maleficarum begins with this, quote, "To disbelieve in witchcraft is heresy." Meaning, if you questioned him and the contents of this book, you're questioning God. So it was like a theological trap. Doubt itself became a sin, right? Kramer describes witchcraft as the devil's conspiracy against mankind, but specifically against men. Because in his mind, women were the devil's favorite tools. He writes, quote, "All witchcraft comes from carnal lust, which in women is insatiable." That's a quote from the book.
It's not true, because no one is probably lusting after his cornball ass. I could see it right now.
100%. He's the worst.
Probably has bad posture and everything.
Yeah, he's the worst.
Wooden teeth and shit.
Yeah, he definitely had probably some rotting ass teeth. It was nasty.
They didn't have no Crest back then.
No.
So they were kind of fucked, or Colgate or some shit.
According to him, women were inherently weaker, more emotional, more inclined to corruption. He says they are, quote, liars by nature and, quote, defective in all powers of both soul and body.
He never seen any titties. Someone just got to show him some boobs, and he'd be like, that was all wrong. I like women.
In one of his most venomous lines, he declares, quote, "When a woman thinks alone, she thinks evil," end quote.
Bars.
He targeted midwives in particular, calling them the devil's handmaidens. These are women trained to help other women give birth. They literally bring life into this world. He wrote, quote, "No one does more harm to the Catholic faith than midwives."
Actually bring children into the earth?
Yeah.
This is the dumbest person I've ever seen. And how do you even publish a book back then? Do you just got to keep writing it over and over?
No, just wait, I'll tell you. So he argued that these midwives killed infants, offered them to demons, and used their bodies in unholy rituals. He would say if a baby was stillborn, which happened all the time back then, that it was actually the midwife who did it on purpose, and then used that baby as a sacrifice to the devil.
I wouldn't be able to talk to this guy because he's so dumb. Like, can you get away from me?
I know. These weren't metaphors. He wrote all of this as if it actually happened, and people started listening and believing it was true. Kramer wasn't just inventing superstition. He was professionalizing it.
They really needed some internet back then.
They did. The Malleus didn't just spread fear. It turned fear into paperwork. It was all on paper now. It laid out step by step how to conduct witch trials, how to extract confessions through torture, how to determine guilt based on a woman's body language. It advised judges to deny legal counsel because back then they had fully functioning court systems, okay? It's not like It's not as barbaric as we think in the 1400s. Shit was all messed up back then, but they still had a court, they still had court systems, and they still had lawyers, and people were represented by counsel. But according to Heinrich and this book, witches were to be denied legal counsel. It told judges to use sleep deprivation and physical torture until the accused confessed freely. He even warned that refusing to confess was proof of guilt.
So you're guilty if you can say I did it, and you're guilty if I say I didn't do it.
Exactly.
So basically what he was saying is he could never take being wrong.
Yes.
He's an insecure turd.
Yes. Another quote is, "The devil grants his servants unnatural strength to resist pain." So if you, like you just said, if you didn't confess, you were guilty. If you did confess, you were guilty. There was no way out. But perhaps the most dangerous of all, the book claimed to carry the Pope's approval, suggesting that the Pope himself endorsed it, but he didn't. But that didn't matter. The printing press was invented in 1440, so this shit spread like wildfire. That's a big part of why the Malleus Maleficarum became so influential. It was one of the first mass-produced books in Europe. It was second to the Bible.
And that's probably where the saying comes, don't believe everything that you read. Because back then, maybe they thought everything in a book was a fact because the world was very big back then, meaning you weren't connected to everyone.
Mm-hmm. So within a decade, the hammer of the witches was everywhere. In monasteries, in universities, in courtrooms. It gave legitimacy to paranoia. It gave men a language for their fear. Soon, demonology became a field of study. University theologians debated about how witches made pacts with Satan, how they could fly, how to tell a genuine confession from one inspired by demons. So fear had become academic. And look at the source. A drunk, creepy clown, laughed at by a whole town. He wrote this book literally because he was butthurt. The Malleus Maleficarum became the spiritual blueprint for every witch trial that followed throughout history. Its logic was circular. Everything confirmed its own truth. If you denied being a witch, the devil was helping you lie. If you confessed, the devil had already claimed your soul.
What were you supposed to say?
Exactly. It's a trap.
You could be like, I am not going to say anything.
You can't, because then if you're not going to say anything, then you're pretty much guilty.
Then I'm going to hit him with a SMD.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you could say.
Hit him with some good old New York slang.
Mm-hmm. If you defended the accused, right? If it was your wife that's accused or your sister or your mom and you defended them, you must be one of them too. That's how you turn society into a trap. It gave permission to hate your neighbor in the name of God.
You know what? It sounds to me more like they're just ruling with fear. Do what we say or we're allowed to kill anyone we want because we can say anyone is a witch.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what was happening. And nowhere did that hatred take root faster than in Germany. Germany became the epicenter of witch hysteria, the place where faith and fear collided most violently. It is the fall, which means it is sweater weather. Cooler days call for layers that last, and Quince is my go-to for quality essentials that feel cozy but look really refined and won't blow your budget. I've been eyeing their wool coats. They look designer level but cost a fraction of the price. And the quality is just as good, if not better. They also have $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters, premium denim that fits like a dream. It's a wardrobe upgrade, okay? It's giving adult. It's giving we are now in our 30s and 40s. It's giving we're old enough to now choose quality over quantity, okay? Find your staples at Quince. Go to quince.com/wifeofcrime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Yay. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/wifeofcrime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/wifeofcrime.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. By the late 1500s, the Holy Roman Empire was a disaster. Shit was falling apart. Religious wars were happening. There were natural disasters. There was famine. Like, life sucked.
I never get religious wars. Like back in the Christian Crusades, they would like kill people for not believing in Jesus. How about like, oh, you don't want Jesus? More Jesus for me.
It's just not how it worked.
That's crazy.
Because this was all, you have to remember, it wasn't just about the religion. The religion was mixed with politics. The religion was mixed. It was all a giant, like, soup. Okay, nothing was compartmentalized. There was no separation. It was about influence, you know? So back in the 1500s, life sucked. Crops failed. People starved. And every hailstorm, every sick cow, every stillborn baby became evidence that Satan was here. When the Archbishop of Trier decided it was time to get rid of witches in his land, he didn't need to look very far for a guide. He already had one sitting right on his desk. The Malleus Maleficarum.
That's a dumb name, too.
So the town is full of people, right, who are exhausted by life. They're fed up with hardship. They need someone to point fingers at, so they start whispering. And whispering turns to accusations. And soon, a witch committee is formed. A group of men whose only job is to root out the devil's soldiers.
A group of men who gets no bitches.
If you suspected your neighbor was a witch, you'd go to the committee and you'd present evidence. And evidence could be anything. You could literally show up and be like, bro, my harvest this year sucked. One of my cows dropped dead. I had a dream about Susie next door and I swear she's trying to seduce my husband. Like, no lie, this is the type of documented evidence presented to the witch committees in Trier.
I feel like people are just as dumb today, and they have more information.
I agree. There are people who, some of them really are just as dumb today.
Bro, Facebook, please don't put your thoughts out there. Just share stuff that was previously made that people think is funny.
Yeah, please.
Then no one will think you're weird. Well, people probably think I'm weird, but the shit I share.
Bro, if you follow Russ on Instagram, his Instagram is unhinged. If you're a listener and you follow Russ, you already know some of the shit you share is ridiculous.
I only really do stories, though.
Yeah, you only do stories.
Just, stuff that I think other people might think is funny. So I'm trying to, brighten up their day with, maybe crackheads doing some obstacle courses or something.
So once you were accused, you were trapped. The trials in Trier became some of the most brutal in Europe. Witchcraft was classified as an exceptional crime, meaning the usual rules didn't apply. Torture wasn't just allowed, it was expected.
So it's like above a felony.
Yeah, this is
they didn't have probably misdemeanor or felony, but this was like the top of the line crime.
Yeah, top of the line. You don't even, you're getting tortured right away. You don't even get interrogated.
It's the only way they get to touch any women, these turds.
So once someone was accused, the goal wasn't to find the truth. It was to extract a confession. Interrogators from the witch committee used devices like the strappado. So this is where victims' arms were tied behind their backs, okay? And then they hoisted up their wrists up in the air behind them until their shoulders dislocated. Others were tortured by the rack, which put their hands and their feet, spread them out, and then stretched their limbs until their joints popped and their shoulders and hip joints were pretty much taken out of their body.
I think that these dudes did this all to women because they probably weren't getting women. And they were hateful.
Some of them were married, so...
Yeah, well, their wife was probably whack.
It's really interesting because throughout this whole thing, you're going to go back and forth of, like, some of them truly believed this. I mean, this is all fear. But then there is a side, it could be a mix of both. Was this a conspiracy against women in this patriarchal society? Or was this complete hysteria?
There'd probably be a little of both.
A little of both, yeah.
Maybe men trying to take power away from women because they hold the power in sex normally. Like,
women are just in general, back then they didn't think this because it's patriarchal, but women are very emotionally intelligent. We're powerful beings. We bring life into this earth. We create humans. And it's threatening to men.
Well, women are, just as good in everything except, strength. Normally because of testosterone.
Mm-hmm. So another torture device was called the thumb screw. So the thumb screw was a device that they put your hand in, and then they would screw and it would crush down on your hand, and it would crush all the bones in your fingers and hand.
And there's no recovering from that back then because they don't got no medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're being tortured. Your limbs are being ripped apart. Your shoulders are being dislocated, and your hands being crushed. Women were stripped completely naked and shaved to search for the devil's mark, a supposed spot where Satan had touched them. So these women would be in a room full of men on this witch committee.
I'm telling you, this is just some freaky shit.
Well, they stripped them naked and shaved them, and then they would strap them down to a table, and they would search their bodies inch by inch, looking for a mark.
I bet.
Sometimes it was a birthmark or a mole, but conveniently, the men asserted that it had to be around their vagina. So it was inspected by multiple men thoroughly, which is absolutely horrendously terrifying and degrading. Like the whole idea that these people went through this and they were innocent and they're subjected to this torture and this humiliation is just disgusting.
Yeah, this is kind of aggravating.
Sleep deprivation, starvation, and humiliation, they were all standard. The cruelty wasn't random. It was wrapped in a belief that suffering will expose lies. But in reality, it forced countless people to say whatever their torturers wanted to hear to just stop the torture. And it fueled this cycle of paranoia that no one could escape, right? Because you're just getting false confessions because these people are just like, whatever, I'll say whatever you want, just stop the torture. They're not getting interrogated. They're being accused and then immediately getting tortured and then confessing because they want it to end. One of the most influential dudes in Trier was this guy named Judge Dietrich Flade. And unlike most judges at the time, Flade was actually pretty smart. He was a lawyer and he studied and got a doctorate degree. He was smart when it came to law, and he was wealthy and powerful and deeply connected. But he also had a reputation for being ruthless, especially toward people who owed him money.
Bitch better have my money.
He convicted many witches and had many people executed. He was a scumbag. He was part of the problem. But his case proves that no one was exempt. When a 16-year-old boy claimed that he had been taken to a witch's Sabbath and he saw Judge Flade there, it was over. Other accused witches being tortured at the time started naming Flade as well. We don't know if they were trying to give the torturers what they wanted or if they were like, fuck it, this dude's killed multiple people. Let's put his name in the ring. Let him get a taste of his own medicine.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what the motivation was. But soon, his name was whispered in every corner of the city. The Prince Archbishop refused to believe it at first, but public pressure became overpowering and crowds started demanding justice. Flade tried to run away from Trier.
But they shaved him down and looked for the devil on his dick.
They did. They shaved him. And
What?
They did.
What?
They tortured him.
Oh, my God.
So first they caught him when he tried to run away. They arrested him, and then they tortured him. The same methods he once allowed to be used on others were used on him. He was tied with his arms behind his back and hoisted upward, and his shoulders dislocated, and his ligaments in his shoulders tore in half. He endured months of torture before finally breaking and telling his torturers what they wanted to hear.
Wow.
He told them he was in the woods at that witch's Sabbath, hanging out with the devil. And on September 16th, 1589, Judge Dietrich Flade was found guilty of witchcraft and heresy. 2 days later, he was burned alive in front of the entire town. A public warning that no one, no matter how influential you are, is safe. And that execution changed everything. It proved that social status couldn't save you. The witch hunts in Trier weren't just about women anymore. They were about control. In the decade that followed, between 800 and 1,000 people were executed in Trier.
Damn.
Executions were public events. Okay, people came to watch.
This is why you need a TV.
To reassure themselves that they weren't the ones being burned, that they were doing the right thing. Can you imagine, this? It's kind of crazy to talk about it now because it was so long ago. But if you think about it, over the course of almost 10 years, 1,000 people were burned alive in front of the entire town.
Wow. It seemed like you needed a movie theater or something back then. They had nothing else to watch.
It seems like they enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's probably, hey, every Friday, come out to wherever and watch this person get hung. First drink is on the house, and girls get in free before 10.
Yeah, it's literally like an event. It's wild. So by the mid-1590s, the storms started clearing up, the crops grew again, the economy improved, and slowly the frenzy about witches died down. But the damage was already done. The Trier witch hunts became a model, the successful blueprint for how to conduct witch trials. Manuals and demonology books across Europe referenced Trier as proof that witches are real, they were everywhere, and they needed to be stopped. And that's how it spread. From one city's fear came a complete obsession. A few decades after Heinrich Kramer wrote the Malleus Maleficarum, another book came out that really fanned the flames of these ideas. And this time it was written by royalty. In 1597, King James of Scotland published Demonology, a whole-ass book dedicated to proving that witchcraft was real and that witches are the enemies of God and the crown.
Oh, my God.
See, James wasn't writing this.
#fuck yo crown.
James wasn't writing this as theory. He genuinely believed he'd been targeted by witches himself after a violent storm almost sank his ship on the way back from Denmark. They don't understand meteorology back then, okay?
Yeah.
So in his mind, that storm wasn't the weather. It was sorcery.
So basically, things happen in their life, and they just never take accountability for it.
Or they just...
So they say, it wasn't my fault. A witch did it. They're not
Yes.
taking accountability at all.
Well, it's also things that are natural disasters. Naturally, it was super duper cold one year and your crops didn't grow. It has to be the devil and witches. It was things that are out of control. People dying of disease. So he decided he would tell everybody about this, right? His ship almost sunk. It's not because of bad weather. It's sorcery. These witches are trying to destroy me. So he writes Demonology. And Demonology reads like a mix between a theology lecture, like quoting the scriptures all the time, mixed with a horror script. Page after page describing the devil's contracts, witches' sabbaths, and all the ways they supposedly harm faithful people. But what really made it dangerous was who wrote it. Like, this is the king, okay? So you're the king and you're saying this. Your whole country believes witches are real. Everyone else falls in line.
Mhm.
His book wasn't just superstition. This became policy. And it gave witch hunters across Britain the royal stamp of approval that they've been waiting for.
Oh, my God. They
So-
get dumber and dumber.
Oh, yeah. It gets crazier and crazier as the story goes.
Even dumber than this, I guess. Not like, the story's good, but the people are dumb.
They are. So by the mid-1600s, witch hysteria has made its way across to England. But it looked really different there. English didn't burn witches. They hanged them. And for a while, accusations were scattered like local feuds, family disputes, until two men, Matthew Hopkins and John Stern, turned witch hunting into a business, a career. So by the time Matthew Hopkins was born, a few decades after Demonology was published, the groundwork was laid. Like, witch hunting is now patriotic, okay? Because the king wrote this book. This is all over the place. And you are a true patriot if you're going to hunt witches. The king himself had said witches are real, and they were out to destroy the faithful, and that it was every good Christian's duty to root them out. Hopkins didn't invent the fear, but he sure as hell monetized it. Matthew Hopkins and John Stern called themselves witch finders. Hopkins was in his mid-20s, the son of a Puritan minister, and Stern was an older guy, a landowner, more practical. He was a little less theatrical than Hopkins, but both of them were definitely cut from the same cloth. They were deeply religious, opportunistic, and they were ready to cash in on fear. England in the 1640s, just like all of the Middle Ages, was a hot mess, okay? The English Civil War had torn the country apart. Parliament was at war with the king. Armies were moving through small towns, spreading panic, disease, there was famine. When life collapses, people start looking for an invisible enemy. And Hopkins was more than happy to find one for them, for a fee. Hopkins and Stern formed what was basically a traveling witch hunting firm, okay? They'd roll into this village.
Witches are us.
Yeah, like literally. They'd roll into this village, usually because some terrified ministers called them and said, like, the devil's here, I need your help. So these two men claimed to have special authority from Parliament to search out witches. That authority was entirely self-invented, by the way. There was no official witch finder title. There was no law about it. It's like the equivalent to having a bartending license, okay? Like, it's completely made up.
Yeah, there's no such thing.
There's no such thing, people. There's no such thing as a bartending license, just so you know. But fear...
Wait, I think there is one in Vegas.
Oh, maybe Vegas. But...
I think you actually have to have one to work.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's the only place, because in New York, it's definitely a crock of shit.
Yep.
But fear makes people stop asking for proof. These two roll up, they're looking all official, and the people are easily convinced. They would offer their services to the town council. They would conduct interrogations and torture of the accused witches, and then peace out and send a bill. Matthew Hopkins charged about 20 shillings per witch, plus extra for food, travel, horses, and his little witch hunting entourage.
Damn.
Which was a few people who worked for him inspecting the bodies of the accused for the devil's mark, okay?
I hate all these people so much.
I do too. 20 shillings is about a month's wage for a skilled tradesman at the time. And this was for every single accusation. And sometimes there were dozens in one town. The total bill would equal several $1,000s today in each town. So if they spend a week or two in a town, they're making thousands per week.
Yeah.
Between 1644 and 1647, just 3 years, Hopkins and his partner, John Stern, were behind the torture and execution of 300 people.
The serial killers. They're like the biggest serial killer.
I know.
They're just getting like free excuses for their killing.
They're getting paid to kill
Yeah.
300 people.
These are some of the most evil people.
They are.
Because they're actually doing it themselves, too. It's, to me, I mean, all death and stuff is bad, but I'm thinking of like an army general, like, oh, he was terrible. But a lot of times they're just telling their people to go there. They're not, like, these people are there doing it themselves.
Yes.
With their hands.
Yes. The execution of 300 people is more executions than in the entire previous century of English history. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, but I'm wondering how they got that number. I'm guessing they didn't keep very good records back then.
No, they did keep good records of executions.
Oh.
This is all like very, very well documented.
Damn.
300 innocent people hanged in public because of these two men. They weren't chasing witches. They were chasing profit. Their methods came straight from the Malleus Maleficarum, torture disguised as divine testing. They would strip the people, mostly women, searching for the devil's mark. If they didn't find one, they remixed it a little and came up with a couple new ways to determine if someone was a witch. One of them was the water test. They'd tie the women's thumbs to her opposite toes, okay? And then they'd throw her into a pond. The belief was that holy water would reject evil. So if she floated, she was guilty. And if she sank, she was innocent. So lucky for you, Russ, we found out that you're a sinker. So you wouldn't be considered a witch.
Bloop.
So I
used to be able to float, folks.
I didn't know this until Russ started aquatic therapy, but there are some people who are floaters and some people who are sinkers. And Russ is a sinker. So congrats. Like, you wouldn't be accused of witchcraft.
But I'd be dead.
Well, yeah, you'd be dead because...
But you go to heaven.
But oftentimes the person drowned before it was determined either way. So they would drown anyway.
They would just drowning people, and they would put in a little remix spin on it.
Yeah. They also use sleep deprivation a lot, keeping prisoners awake for days to, quote, drive the devil out. Under exhaustion, many of them broke and confessed, just telling Hopkins and Stern and the other torturers whatever they wanted to hear to end the suffering. And once one person confessed, they started asking for more names. Well, was homeboy next door there too? Was the old widow down the street there too? They also used a method called witch pricking. Get this.
Sounds funny.
They'd prick you with long needles, searching for a spot on your body that doesn't bleed or hurt.
Oh, jeez.
But this turned into its own profession, okay?
Micro needling today.
Yeah.
Don't do that shit. That shit hurts.
Well, this turned into its own profession. Professional prickers. Actually,
like in New York, all Italian guys like, this guy's a fucking prick. They say it all the time. This fucking prick. I don't talk to that fucking prick.
They do. Well, these are professional prickers. And they actually carried around retractable needles so they could fake the result.
Wow.
Imagine your life depending on whether a man's trick needle clicked or not. They also used the weighing test. In some towns, witches were thought to weigh less than ordinary people because they were lighter in faith. So they'd weigh the accused against a stack of Bibles or against a righteous woman. And if you were lighter, you were a witch. If you were heavier, the devil was weighing down your soul.
Oh, so either way.
So there's no right answer.
I hate that.
the false confessions as a result of the torture was rampant, okay? During torture, they'd force people to recount midnight meetings with the devil, orgies in the woods, babies being sacrificed, and familiars. They were really big into familiars. So if you had cats that would come see you, or toads, or foxes, you had familiars.
Wow.
And to them, that's a witch's familiar.
I'm always trying to be friends with the animal.
Me too. If you didn't confess, you were tortured again. If you did confess, they said you were finally telling the truth. So as usual, just like in Trier, it was a closed loop, a perfect deadly trap. Because witch hunts weren't about finding witches. They were always about just confirming belief. They were never looking for the truth. They were looking for validation.
Mm-hmm.
And they always found it. Because the tests were built to deliver the answers they wanted. Matthew Hopkins actually kept meticulous records. Every confession, every mark, every spectral sighting, which was a ghost sighting. It looked official, methodical, righteous. But underneath it was greed. Every witch they found meant another payment. Every hanging meant another town saved and another addition to their resume, leading to another town that would hire them next.
I can't believe they got away with this for this long, that they didn't kill someone's wife or something and just didn't make it out of that town. Because like you said, my wife was a witch. Now I'm blasting you.
Right, so if they called me a witch and you took up for me, you'd die too because they'd call you a witch.
Yeah, but they'll die too. Yeah, they'd be dead too. I'm like, all right, I guess we all dying today.
Well, that didn't happen. People who took up for their family and friends would be accused as well, arrested, tortured, and hung.
No, I got to jump them. He came with like 3 people.
No, they came with, it was Hopkins and Stern, and then it was like, I think it was like 5 to 7 people as their like entourage. So Hopkins eventually started calling himself the Witchfinder General. He gave himself that title. He printed pamphlets to advertise his business and his successes. And he published a short book, and you can read it today. It was published in 1647. It's called The Discovery of Witches. And it presents himself as this moral servant of God. But the cracks were already showing. People began to notice a pattern. Everywhere he went, dozens of witches were found.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere he went, he left richer. Local officials started questioning his authority and his fees, because his fees were growing as his popularity was.
Oh, please tell me they burned him at the stake.
Even the Church of England began to grow a little uneasy. When he was asked to justify his methods, Hopkins pointed back to Scripture, of course, citing Exodus 22:18, quote, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." But behind the piety was pure profit. He and John Stern were making what one historian called a living from killing. By the time Hopkins died of tuberculosis in 1647, he wasn't even 30 years old yet. But he had become both famous and despised. His partner, John Stern, faded back into rural life. He later published his own book defending their work. But then he eventually admitted that it had gone too far. In just 3 years, after 300 executions of innocent people, in some places, whole communities were wiped out. And just like that, it stopped. Once the hysteria cooled down, Parliament never appointed another witchfinder again.
Whoever appointed that witchfinder needs to be burned.
Well, Parliament did.
Burn the Parliament.
The trials slowed down and then eventually vanished. Hopkins not only left behind 300 bodies, but he also left behind a blueprint. He'd proven that fear could be monetized.
True.
That moral panic could be turned into a business model. From that point on, witch hunting wasn't just about religion anymore. And that idea would echo all the way across the Atlantic to the colonies. Hopkins and Stern didn't invent witch hunts. They just figured out how to make them profitable. They turned fear into a business plan, a traveling show, And for a while, it worked. They left behind bodies, they destroyed families, and a blueprint for how to make paranoia look like purpose. But when everything finally died down in England, something else was already brewing across the ocean. The next generation of Puritans packed up their Bibles, their guilt, and their fear of the devil, and they carried it with them to the New World. Over here, the witch hunt wouldn't be about money. It would be about morality, about power, about survival. And it would all explode in a tiny, freezing Massachusetts village where a group of little girls would start screaming and an entire town would lose its mind. By the time the witch panic reached Salem Village, life there was already a total nightmare. The winters were freezing. Food was scarce. Disease spread fast, and everyone was constantly up in each other's business. It was a community built on gossip and guilt, a whole town full of Karens.
No one likes nosy people.
With pitchforks and prayer books, okay? People were suspicious of anything that looked like joy or difference. If your livestock died, it was probably your neighbor's fault. If your bread didn't rise, the devil was clearly involved. And right in the middle of all that tension, a group of little girls, bored, dramatic, and maybe a little too good at lying, threw the entire village into chaos. Their fits, as they'd come to be called, and crazy accusations started a domino effect that no one could stop. It's wild that one of the darkest moments in American history started with a bunch of little kids pretending to be possessed.
People.
But it's true.
I know. They're just so dumb.
We've all heard of the Crucible. I had to read it in school, and I think most American high schoolers have to. But that was just theater. So next time, I'm going to tell you what really happened in Salem. And it is a whole lot darker and pettier and more ridiculous than Hollywood ever showed us in The Crucible.
I wonder why they never made like a good, realistic witch movie.
Yeah, I wish that they could take all of this information and turn it into like a show or a movie because it's so fascinating.
It is, but it would just be a lot of innocent women getting murdered, and I guess people don't really want to watch that over and over.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So people didn't get smarter in Salem. They're still dumb.
Yeah, Salem is, this whole story of the Salem Witch Trials is crazy. And we're going to have to do it on part 2 because it's pretty in-depth in and of itself. But this whole part I wanted to set up on how we even got to this point, how the Puritans even had these ideas. And this is why. It all came from everything I just told you.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that. All that witch stuff is interesting. I just knew that my full knowledge was that they were burning witches at the stake. And me, being a normal person, knows there's no such thing as witches. Mm-hmm. So I just knew they were burning women.
Yeah.
And a lot of them. They were saying they were witches.
Yeah.
But so I always thought maybe it was like people that like use herbal teas, or I don't know, they're making stuff with leaves and stuff. And
well, some of them were.
Like maybe you use some aloe vera on a spot on your arm or something from a leaf. And that's what I thought.
And some of them were completely innocent and their neighbor was just pissed off at them. Some of them were people who did have pagan traditions, right? Or used folk magic, for instance, from their pagan traditions that were passed down from generations. And it was threatening to the church. So it was a mix of people. It was people who were completely innocent, doing literally nothing, people who maybe were herbalists or midwives, and then people who did do folk magic.
See, I didn't get the midwife thing at all. That one's just weird.
It makes zero sense.
But I understand them mixing all these things together to make you feel better or whatever.
Yeah.
I understand why they would think that.
That it's magic?
Yeah, like if you're gonna think it, I guess that's the closest you can get.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. All right, everybody. So thank you for tuning in. Check out part 2. It's coming up next. And check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod and Facebook at Wife of Crime the Crime Family. And what else? wifecrime.com for the merch. Send us your ghost stories.
Yeah.
Because they will be coming out next week.
Yeah, so I could boo-hoo on your story.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week.